Robert Cresant joining us now. He's the president and CEO of the International Franchise Association. There's a lot of issues that are affecting small businesses that affect franchises today. They're also doing a tour in Virginia. Monday, they were in Richmond. Tuesday, they're here in Hampton Roads, and big focus on Virginia and their veterans. Mr. Cresant, great to have you on, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me. Cumulatively, I couldn't be more happy than to be joining you.
Great word, cumulatively.
Thank you.
You know how long it took me to say that without screwing it up?
I had to work it over several times in my own head.
It's pretty tough. I tell you, welcome to the show, Robert. For most people, when they hear the word franchise, right, they think of the restaurant industry, like McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or Wendy's or something like that, or maybe, tropical smoothie. But tell us a little about the franchise industry that we don't really know about from the layman's view.
Excellent. Well, you hit it right on the head. When you're thinking about those fast food and quick service restaurants, you're thinking about approximately 20% of our overall membership in the franchise business. There are about 3,000 franchised concepts out there, and they're virtually in every space that you can imagine. Whether it's changing the auto glass on your windshield, whether it's the Marriott hotel that I'm staying in, where you've got franchising by far more than half of all of the units that are out there that are Marriott hotels these days, and it's the same with every other major hotel brand. And it offers huge opportunity for folks of all levels of experience and ability of interest to engage. And so education is sort of the cornerstone of our tour here. This is our third stop. We've been in Denver first, and then Chicago, and then yesterday, as you mentioned, we were in Richmond, meeting with some of the governors, folks. I was not invited to the mansion, but we had Commissioner John Newby from the Veterans Administration and Secretary John Harvey, who we met with yesterday and had very, very productive meetings to talk about getting our veterans an opportunity. They're in charge of a three-legged stool, as they said to me yesterday. The first is education, the second is finding jobs for folks, and then the third leg of the stool is entrepreneurship, the 3 E's. And we're going to be working with them to pull forward a project where we can help our servicemen and women when they leave to find access to the entrepreneurial opportunities that are available in the area of franchising.
Well, what's interesting, Robert Cresant, one of the things that you said, that 80% of franchises in America do not involve the fast food industry, right? That's only 20%. Many people, I think, having not known that, would have thought the exact opposite, that the majority of it is, those in the fast food business. So let's say I'm thinking about opening up an ice cream store or a service business. I want to do landscaping or maybe run a hotel. What are the advantages and disadvantages of going the franchise route? And rather than let's say I want to do an ice cream store, I just open up, John Fredericks Ice Cream.
Yeah. That's a great question, John, and that's the thing that I think people have to consider. In my mind, really, with regard to successful businesses, there are two types that are small businesses. They're either franchised or non. And the non-franchised business, John, when you open up your John's ice cream store on the corner, I know that when you build to the second or the third or the fourth store in Hampton Roads or Norfolk, then you will move to look at a franchise system as a possibility to expand. Why? Because it's really super difficult for businesses to attract high quality managers to run their business. When they've had years of experience, they often want to go and be their own boss. And so there's nothing like ownership that beats an interest in a store. And when you're visiting a local franchise like this, you usually have a local owner. McDonald's owns about 10%, I guess, of its units, is moving towards 10% in the United States. But every Dunkin' Donuts, for example, that you visit in the United States is owned by a local individual owner. And so that is that's a little known fact, and I think it resonates with people. the other advantage is obviously name experiential name preference and brand preference. We visited with Camp Bow Wow, which is a doggy daycare facility that was founded in Denver. And as the founder said, she said, when I lost my husband, I didn't have a place to put my the love of my life, the thing I cling to most, my dog. And she said there were the daycare facilities for the dog were not sufficient around here. So I got into that business and opened it up for myself, and now there are over 300 units throughout the United States, and they're growing very fast. And these things always seem to be behind them a person who's got just an absolute passion for that business, and they find others that share that passion. If your listeners go onto our website at franchise.org, there's an assessment on there out of the veterans section where the veterans can go in and they can see what kind of business am I suited toward. There's a cars.com style drop-down menu where you can select the different types of franchises that might interest you, and that's I think that's the sort of the broad palette of things that are offered in the franchise business.
We're with Robert Cresant. He's the president and CEO of the International Franchise Association, doing his Virginia tour today. He's in Hampton Roads today. Look, you're in an area with a lot of veterans. A lot of veterans come out. They're looking for work, don't really find what they want. Franchising might be an option. Here's one question before we get to veterans, Robert, and then some of the policies hitting your industry. If somebody wanted to get into a franchise, a lot of people have maybe the misnomer that you need a huge capital investment. You need great credit. Let's say somebody doesn't have $100,000 laying around. They don't have a 790 credit score. Are they still a player?
Absolutely. I talked to John Harvey about this yesterday, and we have a partnership that we have been working with the Small Business Administration in the United States, which is particularly focused on the veteran community. And I told him that the financing is always a key concern. You have to have some level of financial qualification, and the homework is a key concern. We want people to do lots of due diligence. You don't just jump into one of these businesses and expect to sit back and start collecting money. It is hard work, and I see it all the time. But the love and the passion these people have for their community and so forth always shine through. And so we want to make sure that the people are well aware that if they have a house that they bought in Indianapolis at some point when their family was assigned there, that they have some equity in, that before they put that equity on the line for the business that they're going to own, they are darn sure that they're getting into the right business and that they're financially qualified. And so there are lots of avenues that are available out there. We have some early indicators on our website that can guide you, but there are also the franchises themselves.
Okay, if you're interested in perhaps looking at operating a franchise or getting involved in it, again, Robert, what's the website?
It's franchise.org. Or if you're a veteran, you can go to vetfran, vetfran.org.
Now, if we may, in the remaining time we have, Robert, I want to get into some policy because my listeners love to talk about policy. That's what separates out from other shows in the United States. Minimum wage. People know that, listen to me, I'm in favor of a federal rise in the minimum wage, but a lot of my listeners say, John, you're way off base because the real industry that's going to affect is the franchise industry. How does the talk of raising a minimum wage affect small businesses such as franchises?
It is an incredible burden on these store owners, and they have to raise prices, sometimes cut staff, and become more efficient. I've talked to a number of them that are in these straits in different cities around the United States, And invariably what you find is people who are more educated and who have more experience, the guys that are behind the counter that are really moving at high rates of speed, those guys end up having jobs for $11.25, $13 an hour as the minimum wage is increasing, but there are fewer of them in the stores. And so there are economic consequences that I think oftentimes are missed when you look at states like Connecticut, where they have job growth that they're showing, and the economists tout it. If you take a look at just scratch the patina of that surface, you see that a lot of the decent quality middle class jobs that were available are now beginning to disappear, and that you have a lot of entry-level and hourly positions that are in place. And that's exactly the kind of repercussions that are going to be felt in the business community from the new federal overtime rules, which we're objecting to in Washington, D.C., because you're going to see managers that have worked for 10, 12 years, 15 years in the management of restaurants be put into an hourly category again after they finally made it to be a salaried employee. And we've seen that in California, and it leads to incredible distress for these people because they feel like they finally made it to a managerial position, and now they're going to be in an hourly category again.
So basically, these are people that have worked themselves up into management. They chose to get the promotion.
Yes.
They know they have to work long, hard hours, so when you add the hours up and divide it by the weight, it might not be what you want, but they're moving up the ladder and they're willing to do that. Not unlike a Texas League or single A baseball player, right?
Yes, who stays after practice.
Who stays after practice every day. Or when I was to coach high school basketball, I think my stipend was $2,500. If you added up all the time I spent, I paid them money. So, those are personal choices. All right, so it seems like what you're saying is that my support for an increase in the minimum wage, that I might have to rethink that. Is that my understanding?
Well, I don't know. I think there are places that the policymakers that have touched on this minimum wage debate are touching an absolutely appropriate question, and I don't disagree with you that there are places in which the minimum wage should appropriately be raised, and I think it has everything to do with the local economy of some of those places. I think the federal minimum wage is in place. I think before we raise that or put it on an indexed track, which some people have suggested, I think it requires some study because I think it has. I know it has economic effects and practical effects for folks, and I think we can't just pilot this thing with our gut. It's not the right thing, and I think as you see Mr. Trump starting to turn the corner here on some real engagement with some of these policy issues and how hard they can really be, I think you owe it to this economy to take a look and see what the right federal minimum wage is. And I'm not adverse to examining it. I think we have to move carefully here.
Okay, Robert, I've got 1 minute left. In 1 minute, I know one of the issues that's having a huge impact on franchisees is the joint employer issue. Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. Yeah, there are joint employer-related relationships that exist out there in this economy, but taking all of the franchise businesses and connecting all of these independently owned businesses throughout the United States and rolling them up to the national brand is a huge mistake. The franchise businesses, the franchisor, are the managers of the brands, and the people who run the local businesses are the local business owners. You can't take their employees and wrap them up to the federal level, to one big level. It doesn't make any sense treating these large corporations like small ones, applying the U.S. Labor Code that was written in the 1930s to apply to Bethlehem Steel, and now rolling it up to your local Dunkin' Donuts. It just it defies common sense, and we've got to educate and make sure that policymakers know what the distinction is.
Well, this legislation will be coming up again in Virginia. Last session, 2016, it got vetoed by Governor McAuliffe. There was not enough support to override the veto in the House. and the Senate combined. Hopefully this time we'll be able to spread the word and do that. We're out of time. I want to thank Robert Cresant, President and CEO of the International Franchise Association, for joining us today. He's on tour in Virginia and Hampton Roads today. More information, go to franchise.org. That's franchise.org. Robert, we're out of time. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, John.